I would like to thank the sponsor of today's show, Unidragon. This company is the largest producer and seller of wooden puzzles in the world today. Unidragon puzzles have colorful designs of fairy tale and animal images. This kind of product is very attractive, memorable, and popular for audiences of all ages. The details have a unique shape, and this puzzle is interesting for playing and actually incredibly good for the mind. Unidragon puzzles are crafted with the highest quality of artistic flair. They use original art and then a special laser cutting process to achieve the perfect puzzle fit every time. The puzzle comes in a beautiful wood crafted chest, and it is a pleasant gift for loved ones, friends, and relatives. Order yours today at www.unidragon.com. Thank you again, Unidragon.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Eva Evans. She has resided in multiple haunted houses. Eva wanted answers, and thus she began her journey to interviewing over 200 people in the hopes to find these answers. Her interviewing journey led to over 20 published anthologies. Eve is the host of 3 podcasts, The Ghost That Haunts Me with Eve Evans, a truly haunted podcast, as well as Bone-Chilling Tales to Keep You Awake. And she also co-hosts a 4th with James Curro, Forever Haunted. Eve also runs the YouTube channel Bone-Chilling Tales. Eve continues to search for answers. Since 2020, she has begun ghost hunting in haunted locales as well as in her own house. In 2021, she began releasing numerous fictional haunted house novella thrillers. You can find Eve's books on Amazon. All right, welcome to the show, Eve.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, and the first question I like to start off with is this show is based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And we all have something that happens in our life that puts us in a tough situation. So do you have a story maybe you could share about a time in your business or personal life where you hit a tough situation and how you got back on track?
Okay. Well, I will tell you about the haunted house I lived in. It was the second haunted house, but there's quite a lot of personal details that I haven't really shared in other interviews. Okay, so it was a year. Let's just say that. So we lived there for about 3 years. And the first thing that happened was, so I remarried. So we had kind of a blended family.
Mm-hmm.
And we heard footsteps running down the hallway, but my daughter was like 4 and she was scared to go to the bathroom at night. So we just assumed it was her and we're downstairs watching TV. And then we looked at each other and we're like, wait, she's not here. And our son was 6 months old, so he couldn't run down the hallway. So that's what first got us into realizing that it wasn't a normal house. But the second year we lived in that house, and I'm already being really affected. I'm scared to sleep. I'm having night terrors and sleep paralysis almost every other night.
Mm.
Then my biological father, who I did not know growing up, I was adopted at birth, committed suicide. And then later that year, my mom got a cold and died a month later. So during all of that, I was living in this haunted house, and it was quite rock bottom for me emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going to a counselor and getting on some medication because I was terrified to live in that house, and it was a lot to go through. But we did end up moving out of that house and buying a house. So that kind of started my journey because I wasn't really into the paranormal then. Like, I believed in it, obviously, after living in that house, but I wasn't sure. So then I did a lot of research and I started interviewing other people. So I didn't feel quite so alone, like I was crazy, because some people think you're crazy if you see ghosts. And then I was like, this made me feel better having all these other people's stories. So why don't I share them with everybody else? So obviously I asked permission. And that's kind of what got my anthologies going, were that whole journey that was probably the lowest point in my life. Yeah.
Yes.
Scariest.
I think that's beautiful and so interesting. I think that our environment does affect our energy, and sometimes we end up in a place where the energy is definitely off. And you're like, wait a minute, this is beyond normal. This is the paranormal. And unless you're there, it's kind of hard to believe. And so that is something I've had some fun experiences myself as a real estate agent. Literally, I remember showing one house where the listing agent, I was the buyer's agent, and I showed a home in Monrovia, California. And literally the listing agent did not want to go inside the house. And I was like, that's kind of odd. And so I brought the client in, and it was bone chilling cold. And I said, wait a minute, I feel something. And you could literally feel this horrific energy in there. And it was really strange. And I was brought to the master bedroom. And in the master bedroom, I was like, there's something, something happened in there. So I go out, and the client was like, nope, not this house. And I said, yeah, no. And the listing agent, he said, well, yeah, there was a murder. It happened in the bedroom. I said, did it happen in the bedroom? Yes.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I was like, well, you need to let us know these little details, because these are important things to know. And if there was something that happened that was unsettling, sometimes I don't know, spirits or whatever linger, who knows what, but man, there was no doubt. And even, and the person that I was showing it to didn't believe in any of that stuff and was like, nah, that's, but still they're like, yeah, there's something that doesn't feel right.
Yeah. There's feelings that you can get, like heavy feelings are a really common one, or cold, but yeah, don't sell that house.
No, I don't know what happened. It wasn't mine to sell, but that was like the most obvious, where there was just no question, and it was bizarre that they didn't disclose. They're supposed to disclose that in California, at least. And I don't know, every state is different. Some states you don't have to disclose when someone passes away in a home. And sometimes that's a peaceful thing, and it's just part of life, and it doesn't affect anything. But other times, if it was like that, it's not, the energy kind of lingers. So yeah, I would love to hear about maybe some of your books and what you're writing about.
Well, one of my most memorable stories from one of the books is, it actually got me inspired to write a book about first responders and their paranormal experiences. Because if you think about it, they go to calls where people have died or had something tragic, So this story is called Scared to Death. And it's about a lady in her home. She calls 911, and it's from the perspective of a 911 operator, because that's who I spoke to. And she gets this call, and this lady's like, there's something in my home. And she's like, well, who broke in? And she's like, no one broke in. Like, it's not of this world. I'm pretty sure of it. So in the short story, there's the heavy breathing. You can hear, they're like, it's trying to get in the bedroom. You can hear the doorknob rattling, and then it finally falls off. Like, whatever it was able to get the doorknob off. Then they end up getting to the house, and there's no one in the house. The daughter is under the bed, scared, and the mom passed away. So I forgot what the medical term for it is, but basically it's being scared to death. The mom got so scared, she died of being scared to death.
Wow.
So I really always liked that one the best because I really like true crime too. So I wrote a book about first responders, paramedics, firefighters, and got their creepiest experiences that they can't explain on calls.
Yes.
So that was my favorite book so far.
How
So
fun.
yeah.
Yes. And then what about now you're still hunting and ghost hunting? What is that like?
Well, you have to protect yourself before you go in, which was my biggest thing why I didn't do a lot of stuff in that haunted house is I was really scared to make it matter. I don't know if it was mad, but in the middle of the night, it would be like a cop knock or bang on the back of our wall at like 3 a.m. and wake us up. And it would be so forceful. It would shake the wall so hard, it would shake our bed.
Wow.
And my son was in that room and there was nothing in his closet, which was on the other side of our wall because everything was in his crib, like in the drawers of the crib. So I couldn't explain a lot of that stuff, but I was worried about, I didn't know how to protect myself in that house. And now you pray and you can bring sage with you if you're going to cleanse the place with you, or you can bring crystals, which I'm still not 100% about crystals. But we have gone to the Idaho State Penitentiary over here and did a ghost hunt. I have so many EVPs. Not all from there. There's like 4 from there. But so we were in the t-shirt factory and we were doing what's called quiet time, where everybody's quiet so you can voice record. So I played it back and I'm not sure if it's a swear word, so I'm not going to say it. But behind me in the showers, a man was murdered. And I felt like something touched the side of my face and kind of played with my hair while we were recording. So I played it back and it has this demon-like voice saying it's in heck, but not heck.
Right.
And it's super creepy. There was a couple other ones that were just like, go away. Like you said about that haunted house, I'm an empath, which I'm still learning what that is because my whole life I've felt things, but I'm not psychic. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But I walked into the cell block and something drew me to cell 4. And I just kept staring at it. And in my mind, I could just see like blackness. And I was like, there's just something evil in that one. It's like all black. And when we were leaving, the lady goes, did anybody catch anything in cell 4? And we're like, why? And she's like, well, a man was murdered and people have actually photographed a black figure in there.
Wow.
So I thought that was really creepy. But that was really fun. And then COVID kind of put the kibosh on a lot of stuff this last year, unfortunately.
Yes. So. Have you picked up a lot on the film?
On photos, just mostly orbs. I haven't gotten a picture of a ghost yet. Just my house that I live in right now is has experiences. I try not to talk about it too much in this house. But my daughter was standing next to the couch and my other daughter and I were talking to her and we had just had pizza and I guess the pizza box spun all the way around, but there was a chair blocking it for us. And she freaked out and jumped up and was like, nope. So there's some small stuff here, but mostly I do voice record sometimes when my kids aren't here. I don't do it when they're in the house because I feel like it stirs it up. But yeah, there's something here. I've got voices. One says, hey, hi, I'm here. Another one says, chill out. I don't know.
Yeah. How interesting is that? Wow. Well, sometimes do you believe that there's sometimes maybe somebody has passed on and it's a good message or a good energy? Like there's ghosts that are upset maybe or angry energy. And then is there any good energies or that you've run into?
I don't really worry a lot about the house that I'm living in now. I do feel like there is one entity that I'm not sure if it's super nice. There is more than one here, but more so they're good. So I actually think one is my biological dad because I was asking questions about that. And that's when I got, hey, hi, I'm here. And it actually sounds like his voice.
Oh.
So that was kind of creepy, but kind of heartwarming. So,
Right. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there is something with everybody that I've experienced that has passed on, where I've had lots of elders that I've been with when they transitioned and things like that over the years, and friends that I knew that were in their hundreds and this and that. And they all, like the last few days, 3 or 4 days, maybe I visit in the hospital, they're already talking to somebody on the other side. They're already like, hey, I see so and so and uncle whoever that passed away, 30 years earlier, what have you. And when you look at the studies, this is something that has happened in every single culture. Doesn't matter the language, the place on earth, they all have this similar experience of going home to their families, or being brought, greeted and embraced by loved ones that have passed. And so it's just really hard to explain. Or maybe they'll have something where they'll get in touch with a family member, or they'll stay alive until the daughter or the niece or somebody they want to see shows up, and then they'll pass away.
Yeah.
And so there's something beautiful about that, is interesting to study. And of course, we don't want to find out any sooner than we have to, but but
Right.
it's that is unexplainable. But
Yeah.
scientifically, it's like, how can so many people have this same experience?
Yeah.
That just, it is really interesting to me to see that. Now, I know for once I lived up on a canyon, and it was a little cabin house, and we had the cameras put in, and it looked like a man, like a shadow of a man walking in the camera.
Mm.
I was so scared to look at the camera, and I told my friends. The same time, a friend of ours went missing, and nobody could find him. Nobody knew. And then they finally found out that he had been hit by a car, and he was in a coma in a hospital.
Oh,
And this
wow.
is a true story. And it was like, why? How interesting. And it almost looked like his shadow, because it's a tall guy, this and that. And he's walking. Well, he was walking on the freeway, and he got hit by a car and got into this coma. And I was like, why in the heck? I had specialists come to the house. I called all the mediums, all these different people. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's freak. I mean, I'm afraid to look at the I covered the camera. I was scared I was like, I actually removed the camera because it freaked me out. It was like too weird. But I actually called. I was so worried. I was like, maybe I'm supposed to be involved. I did not know him very well. He wasn't like a close dear friend. So I didn't know him. He had just moved to the States, and his family was in another place. And so I had a friend in the FBI that was retired, and I said, can you help? And they went and ran fingerprints on him and found his brother and sister. They got flown out. They saw him, and then he passed away. And I was the connection. And then I never saw him on the camera anymore. And I did remove the cameras because I couldn't take it. So that was like a good thing in a way, in a sense, because he wanted his family there. And I didn't know I had a connection, but I had a connection that was able to get him the help to find his family, because everybody knew him, but nobody knew who his relatives were. It was kind of bizarre. And
Well, that's good though.
yeah, and I thought, okay, well, because it can't always be bad, but there are some really negative vibes. What do you think about maybe going into thrift store or used furniture stores, things like that? Do you find that you could bring energy back in
Yeah.
those kind of things? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a book about haunted objects where people bought stuff at thrift stores or yard sales or estate sales that had something not great there. But not all the stories I write are scary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and basically, I take an interview and I just rewrite it into story format. But yeah, there's been some heartwarming ones too, where this lady, I guess this isn't super heartwarming, but this lady was going in for surgery, and she started getting like these ghostly calls of just static on the other end when she would answer. And I don't remember what surgery she was going in for because I wrote this one kind of a while ago, but then finally one of the static calls says don't do it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so she actually postpones her surgery for like a week or a couple weeks or something like that. But what happened the day she was supposed to have it was they had a power outage. And yes, they do have a generator, but the power outage was caused by an earthquake. And she would have been in surgery during an earthquake.
Wow.
And so I don't know, and she doesn't know if that something would have happened with their hands while they're working with her and accidentally, got something, but she took it as whatever that was saved me or possibly prevented something terrible from happening to her. And I do have other ones. There's 2 twins, and one twin passed away. And the girl twin her radio kept turning on to certain stations of songs that she knew with her other twin. Like it was just trying to say, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you. And they're not spooky things, So I've heard plenty of stories that are super heartwarming too.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let's hear some of the scary ones. Some of the scary ones.
Well, the scared to death one was pretty scary. This one's not super terrifying, but this is kind of another first responder one, sort of. This guy's driving home from work and he's late and it's super dark out. And he sees this guy that looks like he's going to jump off of a guardrail. And it's like Christmas Eve, I think. And he got into his driveway and it was only a couple blocks from his house. And he's like, you know what? I know I'm already late getting home, but I think that guy might be trying to kill himself. So he drives back out of his driveway and goes back over to the guardrail and there's no guy there. And so he's like, well, he couldn't have gone far. It's only been a couple minutes. So he gets out of his car and he's looking, and there's actually a car overturned at the bottom of the ravine. And so he calls 911, and that was actually the spirit of the driver, the husband, and they had a pregnant wife in the car. And so they're able to save her and the baby. So I guess that one's kind of heartwarming, isn't it?
It really is. How interesting. Huh.
I'm trying to think of scary ones. I'm not really thinking of a lot of scary ones right now. There's another one of a nurse that worked at a hospital, which I guess is more heartwarming. And the lady had dementia that she was taking care of. And then she was basically kind of on her deathbed. That's why she was still in the hospital. And she started seeing her husband who passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple times she would scoot over on the bed to make room for him. I forgot what his name was. And then they thought it was her just because she's on a lot of meds because, it's almost the end. And then the neighbor across the hall starts screaming one night that there's a man in her room and won't leave. And there's no one in there. And they're like, where is he? And she points to the corner and they're like, well, ask him his name. And they ask her, and it's the same name as the husband who passed away. So then they start thinking there's more to it. And then right before the lady passes away, she sees the lady dancing by herself in the room and walks past it. And for a brief second, she swears she sees her dancing with an actual guy, and then does a double take and there's no one there again. And then the lady passed away the next day. So there's heartwarming things that happen. I can't really think of a scary one. I'm sorry.
So the ghost was he cheating on his dying wife?
I don't think so. I think he was just wandering around. I don't know.
In that other lady's room. I'd be like, honey, what you doing over there?
Right? You're in the wrong room.
Yeah. That is
That's
that.
funny. So, yeah. And then this year I started writing fictional haunted house books. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Darcy Coates or Amy Cross, or they write thrillers sort of. So I started doing that a little bit, switch it up a little bit.
So this is more like when it became more like the novella format?
I mean, I'd written 20 anthologies, and I've wanted to write since I was 7, and this whole experience in my haunted house just kind of threw me in that direction. Like, this is the direction maybe I was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I felt like I got some answers, like, I don't feel like I'm going to know all the answers until I'm actually gone. I don't think we're going to know all those, but I was like, okay, what do I do from here? I don't want to keep doing anthologies. I mean, I will, but not a couple a year. So I just started writing some fictional haunted houses, experience thrillers. Yeah.
There's nothing better than a good haunted house book or movie. Maybe that might be in the future, some
Yeah.
kind of movie, because I'm telling you, they're hard to find really good ones on the movie side of things. My daughter and I love to watch movies like that, and we're like, oh no, we could have done better. We need somebody to write some really good haunted house movies.
What was
So
the one on Netflix? It was The Haunting of Hill House or something like that. Did
yeah,
you watch that one?
there was a few that we watched, and some were really good, and some were like
Meh.
not as thrilling as we wanted, or we weren't really engaged with the characters. So
Mhm.
we didn't really, I mean, we cared, but we didn't really care as much as if there was some story before it got into the hauntings where you feel like you care about this family, and then boom, stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
So we needed that to really be attached to the circumstances and what happens to the people. So I think that was what was missing with a few of them. And I think that's the same with a lot of them, where it's a lot of stories. They'll go into like action and adventure, but you're like, but who are these people that are getting blown up? What, I don't
Yeah.
really like that kind as much, but it's you want to be attached so that when they get blown, something happens, you're like, oh my gosh, that was Fred. We cared for him or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we need some good writers in that realm as well.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
fun. That is so interesting. So now, what books are your newest books coming out?
I released my first fictional book in February, The Haunting of Hartley House, which is a 2-book series, which I'm writing the sequel for that right now. And then I released The Haunting of Crow House, which actually comes off pre-order on the 12th of April. And then I just wrote The Haunting of Redburn Manor too.
Mhm.
So I have a couple projects that I've been working on.
Yes, and then you have the podcasts. You have really 4 that you're involved with. 3 are yours, and then the 4th. How does that fit into being a mom and dealing with your haunted?
I am really busy. I have a lot of people I've made friends with on Instagram too, who are amazing. One of them is a psychic, Wendy Phillips, and she is the biggest sweetheart. We actually want to ghost hunt together when everything kind of opens up more. But I feel like I kind of suck in the social department because I have 3 kids and I'm married and I have a full-time job. Like I own a business, and then I also run 4 podcasts. Well, 3, and then the one I do with my husband. And then I write. So I really don't have any free time. I'm working all the time, which sucks sometimes.
Yeah, but you love the writing part.
I do, and the podcasts are fun too.
Yeah.
I enjoy them. We did take a break for 5 months on Forever Haunted because I was trying to get all these novellas written and out. So
Mm.
it was one thing or the other on that. But yeah, I really enjoy it.
That's exciting. So now, where can people buy the books or listen to the podcasts?
The podcasts are on all major platform networks, so you can find those anywhere. And the books are on Amazon. They are extended distribution, so I believe they're in Walmart and Barnes and Nobles too. And I'm working on getting them in actual Barnes and Noble stores at the moment. But right now, Amazon's probably the best bet.
Yeah, book tours kind of went on hold.
I had one scheduled, and then COVID hit, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Yeah, we can't do it right now." So
Yeah.
I'm
And then
waiting.
cost, and with the family, it's a little bit harder to do that. So that'll work out. Well, that's really interesting. And I would love to hear maybe some tips for people that would like to get into writing.
Tips
Those,
for writing.
yeah.
You know, if you keep saying that you're gonna do it someday, you might not. Like, just I kept saying I was gonna wait till retirement because I have 3 kids, okay, and I run a business, and so I finally just was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And if I have not so much free time, that's my choice. But I feel like you just got to do it. If you have a story that you want to put on paper, then do it. And if you don't have a story, then just mess around. Just write out some ideas. And I'm telling you, sometimes it'll really flow.
Mhm.
And if you can do self-publishing or traditional publishing. If you want to do traditional, my first thing is get the writer's market. It's a book. It's like $25, which is kind of expensive, but it has every publisher, every literary agent, and what they want to see when you contact them. If it's one chapter, if it's half the book, if you need a marketing plan or a cover letter, if they want to be contacted through email or mail. So that's super helpful. It basically tells you exactly what you need to do to get in contact with those people and how long it takes them to respond. So you know typically how long to wait. And if you want to self-publish, I recommend going on Amazon, because when I first started, I was self-publishing through Draft to Digital. And I had like 4 sales in like 3 months.
Yeah.
And then I took all my stuff off and moved to Amazon. And then it was like, yeah, this is definitely what I should have done in the first place. So, and that's not really hard. They give you step by step. They have question marks on every box if you need to figure out how to do all that. So, yeah, that's helpful too.
Right. Now, how about for moms listening in? Because you are doing a lot. How do you have any tips for moms or parents listening in? Maybe you're a parent, a dad that has kids that is trying to figure out, how do I manage work and an extra project, a passion project that, look, yours is really a full career, and then children.
It can be difficult. My kids are pretty awesome though. They help me. So I have a gardening business and they help me do a lot of that stuff sometimes. And they grew up growing vegetables in the backyard. So they really like that kind of stuff. But for meals and stuff, I do definitely have a hard time doing meals all the time, because my husband works a full day job and I'm working all day long and sometimes till 2 a.m. So I do a lot of meal prep. That way I can just put it in the oven. That really helps me out. And with kids, my youngest is 8 now, so I don't really have a lot. I guess my only thing is sometimes they don't get enough of my time. And so I've been trying to go on bike rides and, carve out that hour, because you don't get that back if you don't do it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes, that is very important. I have 6 children that are grown, and I adopted 3. So, and the last 2 were surprised. So I had 1, and then the doctor says, you can't have any more children. It's impossible. So then we adopt 3, and then the last 2 showed up. Surprise pregnancies. I was like, after 8, 9 years of nothing. So it was a soul contract, and we love them all, but it was a lot of work, and I was working full time also, and doing so much. And it's the times that matter most are really making the time to take a walk as a family and have fun as a family. And as they grow older, they want less time with us and need less time with us. And then they're going to start pushing away because they want to be with their friends and grow up and go off to college and all that. So I would definitely say that I would have somebody come help me clean the house so that I could spend more time, because I was working so many hours. I would do whatever it took to buy the time to be with the kids, even if it was like something didn't get done. If that got done, that was the most important thing. Because I think, why do I work? I work to provide for my family, and I loved everything I was doing, and I still love what I do. But why do I work? It's for them, and and it's a struggle, because there's a conflict between, I want to be there all the time, but I got to provide, and then they're off doing their own thing, and they don't even want us there anymore. They need to have that space, So it is a tough one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a housekeeper too that comes once a week, which helps out. I mean, doesn't do everything, but she does the deep clean stuff that I can't get to. So it's super helpful.
Yeah, that was something even when I was young and starting the businesses and putting a lot of my money back into my new businesses years ago. I literally was like, I just want the major parts cleaned. And it was twice a month. And they would do like the real, like deep cleaning. And then everybody in the house learned to help out because they had to. And it was such a gift because now they know how to take care of their own homes.
Yeah, right.
And then when COVID hit, we couldn't have anybody come clean. And I was like, you know, this is like a lot. What is that?
Right.
We can't have like Uber Eats drive over or go out to dinner, even when we were really locked down in California. And it was like, what are we going to do? We got to do all of this, like a whole extra job, And when you think about it, you pay somebody else to do the job. But when we're home, that's not considered worthy work. And it's like, but somebody's got to do it. I didn't even like doing it, but I had to. It's like, what are you going to do? But that's the exchange. And then I'd love to hear about the empathic. So you have this empathic nature. How does that affect your writing and working with, when you go hunting for the ghosts?
Well, like I said, I don't say that I'm psychic, but I get feelings sometimes, or I guess mostly feelings. In my 20s and teens, I used to have random numbers pop in my head, and I didn't know what they meant. And I guess there's a word for that, but I don't remember what it is because I only learned what it's called last year. But so, for example, my ex-husband and I were watching a Super Bowl game where Green Bay's his team. They were in the Super Bowl. And so about 20 minutes before it even started, the number 42 or 41 was in my head. And I didn't say anything because, I mean, his brother was there and his wife. And I'm like, that's kind of stupid to be like, I have a feeling that this is going to be the number. So I finally, because it won't leave my head. So I finally say, I think Green Bay is going to win. And this is their winning points. And so we watched the whole game. And then his brother and sister-in-law at the end of the game turned to me and they're like, why didn't you bet on that? And I'm like, because I'm not always right. And I mean, 80% I'm usually right, but there's the 20% I'm not right. But once I hit 30, the number thing kind of stopped. But I do get feelings. So when I was 15, my boyfriend and I were going to a movie on a date. And we just left. I think we were about 15 or 20 minutes from leaving, or after we left. And then I got the weirdest feeling when we were about to pull into the movie theater. And I'm like, I need to go home. And he was obviously like, are you just trying to ditch me? I'm like, no. I need to go home. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what. I just had this feeling of complete and utter dread that I've not felt in my life before. And we got home. And my grandma's car was in the driveway. Well, I knew my mom was going to run errands, but my grandma lived 3 blocks away and she didn't drive anymore because she was getting that older. My mom would drive her around. So I was like, that's really odd that my grandma's in the driveway, So I go in and my mom's bawling on the couch. My grandma's holding her. I'm like, what happened? My mom had gotten in a very serious car wreck. She was parked at a stoplight and the truck behind her didn't realize the light was red and ran into her going 45 miles an hour and threw her into the intersection. Wow. And she just had minor bruises and scrapes, but it could have been a lot worse. And it totaled. I mean, her car was totaled. Okay. So that I have not had anything as significant as that one happen, but that one kind of freaked me out for the rest of my life. But paranormal, I do feel, I don't know. I don't want to say I feel entities, but I can kind of feel if they're, the best way I can explain it is how my friend said it one time. I asked him to go in my bedroom. I'm like, do you feel anything in this house? And he goes, I feel like it's occupied. He's like, it's empty, but it's occupied. And so I guess the best way for me to say is I can feel if something's occupied when it's not supposed to be, I guess.
Yes. And then to clear that, so for those listening in, if you have an experience like that, where you've been in a house or you have a house where you hear odd things or you feel a presence or whatever, what should people do?
You can get sage and burn sage. I have not done that here because, like I said, I don't feel like most of the entities are bad. And the one that I'm not sure about hasn't done anything terrible yet. So, or I mean, not even like super bad, just tricky. So I have not done that yet, but you can burn sage, and you have to make sure that you get it from the floor all the way to the ceiling, all around every room. Or you can put salt in your doorways, which is supposed to keep whatever out after it's cleansed, or crystals, which I actually did get crystals last year to try them out. And actually have one of the bags right here. So when you get them, they're clear. You can see through them. I don't know if I'm going to be able to open this, though, because it's tied really tight. But this has herbs in it and crystals on the top. And so when you get them, they're see-through. And as if you can tell, these ones, they're actually white now. And so they absorb negative energy. So they're not, you can't see through them anymore. They're all white. So I tend to believe a little bit in them now, because I thought that was odd that they went to white. But I don't know enough about them yet to say for sure if I feel like that helps. But I did notice that once I put a bag in the rooms that I felt like things were more happening, that it did kind of reduce activity. I did say that I haven't caught a ghost on camera yet, but I did buy a 2-pack of night vision cameras on eBay 4 weeks ago. I have one in my living room, which is where like the pizza box, and then I had a boy giggle in my kitchen, and that's when I caught another EVP. So I put one down here and I put one in my bedroom because I feel like those were my 2 areas. So on one of them, we're sleeping and the covers move up like this and go like this. And so at first I thought it was my husband's foot. And then when you zoom in, you realize it's not attached to anything. And then even at the end of it, it kind of goes like this and it lights up under the covers. So I'm not sure what that is. And then occasionally on different nights, my cell phone, while it's in the charger, will start flashing at me in the middle of the night for no reason. So I don't know. But I shared that with a ghost hunter. And he had some really good advice. He told me to take a humidifier. He actually uses this as his way to debunk a haunting. So you put a humidifier in your room and it actually helps clear up the energy and purify the air. So if you actually are having a haunting, it should relieve anything that's happening. And if whatever it is keeps happening, then it's probably not a ghost. It's probably just weird things.
Yeah. And I wonder for you if it's like, they're like, hey, write my story.
Either that, or apparently they're drawn to people who are more sensitive to them. And so I wonder if they're like, oh, she is into this kind of stuff, so we're gonna hang around her. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe they can. I feel like sometimes it's like they want to get a message out, or they don't know what to do, or they're like, she can hear me. And you're gonna share their story somehow. And like I think about Stephen King and how he'll get these dreams, and that's how he writes most of his really kind of scary movies. And I just think, well, whoa, I wouldn't want those kind of dreams.
I was saying Misery was a dream.
Yes, that's a lot of them were dreams that he'd have. And I think that's one of the reasons why he has trouble sleeping. He talks about that. And so that was kind of interesting how sometimes our greatest things come to us as a gift.
Yeah.
So
you're talking about the book by Stephen King that's called On Writing? Is that what you're talking about?
Like every single book he's written, he claims somewhere, I've seen it on interviews and things, where he actually had dreams before he wrote the book, the movie. And that's what gave, that's where he got it from. It came through him or from a dream.
Oh, he has a book called On Writing, which is actually probably a good reference for people who want to write too. And he basically will show what his books look like before he himself edited them and then
Mm,
gave them to his editor. And then
wow.
also talks about the dreams and not being able to sleep very well. So it's
Yeah.
really helpful. Yeah.
That sounds like, now I have not read that book. I've got to get that book too. All right. Well, now, where can people, again, one more time, I'd love to share where people can reach you and get these books. And maybe if you could name a few of the books, and I will actually show some also at the end.
Okay. You can get my books on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or Walmart. A couple of my newest ones are The Haunting of Hartley House, The Haunting of Crow House, True Ghost Stories of First Responders, and then there's a lot more. But those are my newest three.
All right. All right. And then do you have a website, or where do people go to find you on social?
I'm most active on Instagram, and that's Eve S. Evans author. And also, I have an email address, evesevansauthor@gmail.com or eveevansbooks.net.
All right. All right. Well, for those listening in, stay tuned. And thank you again for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
And this is a special thank you to Eva Evans for being a sponsor and special featured guest on today's show. You can find her incredible paranormal ghost story books on Amazon.com. And here's a little bit more about her. Again, go to Amazon.com and look for Eva S. Evans Books. And I'd like to thank one of our sponsors for today's show, and that is AssuranceDNA.com. Not sure if the child's yours? Pregnant and unsure if the child is his? Assurance DNA is here to help you find the answers to your questions. Assurance DNA is a paternity testing service with access to over 5,000 testing locations across the country. They provide legal paternity testing and home paternity test kits. Can't leave the house? Assurance DNA has a network of mobile collectors that can come to you. Assurance DNA is partnered with DNA Diagnostic Center, a trusted source for DNA testing that has processed over 20 million DNA tests since 1995. At Assurance DNA, you're not just a number, you're family. And when you call, you'll speak to a paternity testing expert who will guide you through the entire process. Everyone's situation is unique. So visit AssuranceDNA.com today to schedule a free consultation or give them a call at 877-362-6450 to speak to a paternity expert. Assurance DNA. Confidence is knowing. So, friends, order Peace of Mind Home Paternity Test Kit today and get 10% off using the code Sheila, SHEILA. Assurance DNA provides a prepaid envelope for you to return your samples to its laboratory partner. So, connect today at www.assurance.com. Thank you. If you're just tuning in, this is the Sheila Mack Show. And I am your host, Sheila Mack. We are here on NBC's KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. And I'd like to share a short excerpt from my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this is the chapter on grief, feel your feelings. And there's something I, as a mother who's lost my son, and many of my other relatives have gone on from this realm and transitioned. And one of the things I do believe in that we kind of talked a lot about today is that somehow our loved ones stay connected to us even when they cross over. So take a listen to this, and I hope it helps. Chapter 2. Feel your feelings. Grief. My dad was diagnosed with cancer and passed away on Father's Day, a few months before my son was born. 3 months later, his mother passed away, joining my paternal grandfather, who had passed away when I was younger. 6 months after that, my grandmother's death, my maternal grandfather passed away. Then my maternal grandmother, the last of my grandparents, passed away too.
I lost all of these relatives in such a short period of time. I had 4 gift stores and was getting the 5th up and running. I had just given birth to my youngest child, and I was taking care of the other people who were still alive, and they were grieving too. I noticed that my remaining family and our close friends all grieved differently. Some people cried straight on for a couple of weeks or months and just really disconnected from society. They went into complete grieving, like they took a grief vacation. Other people who had a tendency to drink or use other substances went off the deep end with their addiction as a coping mechanism. Then they had to get through that backslide and get back on their feet and out of whatever bad habit was brought back into their life. I had never faced so much death or had anything big to grieve before. I didn't know what to expect of myself or how to process this grief and sadness. I still had to function. I had to pay the bills, take care of the kids, do all the things that a parent does. I had other elders who were still living, who were sick and needed care. I didn't have the luxury of taking that grieving break, although that would have been helpful and healthier. So I worked for 14 to 16 hours straight until I was ready to collapse from exhaustion. I remodeled every store. I redid all the displays. I decorated for every new sale. When the store closed and it was after hours, I would listen to music, sing, and cry while I designed. I didn't let it out all at once, but in little bits at a time. It took a good 6 months to cry out all my tears after my dad died, and of course, in those 6 months, somebody else died. I wasn't done. I was back at it again, but this time I knew how I processed it. I never took time off, but work was my therapy. That was my drug of choice, and it was a very productive one. I just worked and cried in the privacy of my own space. When I was with customers, I had my public face on. I would greet them and be present and happy and help them find what they were looking for. I was able to take a small break from grieving in those moments, and that was a relief. I didn't have to grieve full time. It wasn't until a couple years later, after my father and grandparents had died, that I realized it took longer, maybe, for me to process because I only let little bits out at a time instead of having a total breakdown. I slid slowly into that rock bottom instead of diving headfirst. Through the fog. Grief looks different for everybody. Each person goes through the grief process in their own way and for different lengths of time. You might need 6 months of solid grieving or a year, or you might let it out a little bit at a time like I did. You could have advice from the best people on the planet, but until you're ready, you can't move on. I have an older friend whose husband died, and she had to go through a 2-year time frame of dealing with her grief and adjusting to her loss. She calls this transitional time the fog. Grief and the ensuing fog can come for anyone, and you just need to give it time. If you move on too soon, you're not healed up, and you can end up in a new broken situation, whether that's a bad relationship or battling an addiction. It's best not to make huge decisions until you get through the fog, so you don't make the wrong choices. If you do need to make a serious decision, make sure to consult an expert, get second or third opinions, and listen to your intuition. You need to get through the fog in order to get to a healthier, happier place. You are not alone, and the fog will not last forever. That I can promise. Know that there's a point when you're finished grieving, but that doesn't mean you will never grieve again. My dad died on Father's Day, so every year when Father's Day comes around, I'm still melancholy. I choose to celebrate the magic memories I had with my dad and am grateful to be connected to all my cousins who are on his side of my family. Today, I have happy memories, and once in a while I shed a tear for those who have transitioned. The pain of my loss has lessened with time, yet It had to be on my time. I've come to terms with my family's transition. Now, I feel my relatives who have passed are all spiritual beings helping me out here and there. I will often say to myself, I wonder how my dad or grandparents would have dealt with this situation. Then I can almost hear their words of wisdom. All their wisdom and memories are planted in the pocket of my heart as an additional guide and resource for me, always. We are still very much connected. Our relationship has just changed a little. I'm always grateful for their memories and the legacy of wisdom they left for me. 20 years later, you still honor and grieve your loved ones in one way or another. It's not like they disappear from your heart. You just come to a different place where it's not as difficult as when it first happened. Until you're ready and able to move on, nobody can push you. The door is open. There's no lock on the door, but you have to walk through it on your own. Say goodbye to other people's expectations. Just as there's no right or wrong length of time for the grieving process, there's also no right or wrong way to process that grief. When you're grieving and going through this personal situation, you're going to have a lot of people who try to help you through it or expect you to just get over it. How you grieve and process that grief is right for you. No one can tell you exactly what you need. Honor the time it takes for you to grieve. Walk and work through it rather than just trying to get over it. Walking through the grieving journey is natural, normal, completely healthy, and sane. It's part of our process as human beings. Honor that part of you as much as you honor the part that laughs and plays and does fun things. That emotion of grief is just as good and helpful and purposeful as any other emotion we have. It's sometimes looked down on in society, or we're made to feel like we have to hide our grief. You can do whatever you choose to do with that, but don't hide it from yourself. It's like any kind of healing. If you want to heal, you're going to have to go through the pain. To get to that other side, you have to come to terms with it in your own way, and everybody has their own way of coming to terms with it. Some people may take time away from everybody else and pray or meditate in isolation. Others may choose to surround themselves with people or distract themselves in work or volunteering to take a break from the pain. Too many people feel the should in a lot of parts of their lives. I should feel this way, or I should do this because I see other people grieving like this. Find some way to honor what you need, whether that's taking a walk every night or going to bed early or just asking for help getting through the day. If you need to cry every night for 6 months or journal or take long walks or hike or do yoga every day to get through it, do whatever you need to do. It's all okay. There's no magic bullet to end your grief. There's no magic moment when you get over it. All grieving is individual. There are also many ways to honor your loved one. You can have a memorial or ceremony personalized around the person who passed and those who remain. You can connect with others and share your favorite memories. Take pictures of them at different stages of their life or of their house or whatever you want to remember about them, and make a collage with your favorite pictures. Do something so you have a memory and you honor that grieving time. You may even do things differently for different people that you lose. Just honor whatever comes to you, because honoring your loved one is part of healing. There's no right or wrong. However you need to heal is the best way. I wouldn't worry that someone grieved too long or too hard, but I would be concerned if someone gets stuck in their grief.
This book is not one size fits all, just like a pair of boots or a bra. So the formula is designed to help you through any situation. For you to grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now available on Audible,
as well as on Amazon and Kindle, and at www.sheilamac.com.